Thank you for coming back to the video for a happy adult. I am so proud of you that you have chosen to make yourself a happier adult, because even though I can give you the tools to do that, really it ultimately comes from you. You need to seek out those tools and you need to put those into effect. So if you like the videos, like and subscribe. I would really also appreciate any comments, especially if things that you guys want to learn more about. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we're going to talk about promises and your credit report, because what your credit report is just a document of how well you keep your promises to lenders. But really it comes first from promises to yourself. So as Stephen Covey in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talked about your internal promises and how every other promise comes from your internal promise. So if you are not doing well with keeping promises to yourself, you are not going to do well with keeping promises to your friends, your family, and lenders. Now, what does that mean, keeping promises to yourself? So every time you've said, oh, I promise I'm not going to eat that dessert. I promise I'm not going to do this. I promise I'm going to work out. I promise that I'm going to get this project done. And then you don't do it, then that kind of breaks down a little bit of yourself. And because then you go, oh, I wish I had done that. Why didn't I do that? I'm such a loser. So you got to keep the promises to yourself. If you're not going to keep it, don't promise it. Just don't make that promise. So the key thing is making promises only when they are that important that you know you are determined to keep them. And once you do that, and it gets easier and easier, you'll then keep those promises to yourself, and you will then keep promises to other people. So let's talk a little bit about credit reports and your promise to the lenders. So your credit score and credit report are two different things. Your credit score is a number, and that comes off of your credit report. That can change every week. That can change every month. It shouldn't change by a significant amount, but it can change. Your credit report is what is the most important, because your credit score comes from that. Once a year, you can get a free credit report. You need to do that. So with me, I usually set mine for my birth month, and then every year at that time, I get my free credit report and I check it. So there's 3 credit reporting companies: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Your credit report should not change much from one to the other. Just the formatting should change. Once you get that free credit report, you need to look at it for anything that is incorrect. So I'll go through and talk to you about the different things that are on that credit report and the things that are important and not so important. So the first part is going to have all of your current information, your address and everything else. So you want to check that to make sure that it is correct. Also, sometimes they have any of the names that you've used. So check that. If you're married, it could be your maiden name. It could be a shortening of your name that you've used maybe with a creditor. So check all of that. Make sure that there's no like bizarre name on there that you have never gone through by. The next thing that you'll have on there is you will have public records. So public records are things that have gone through the court, bankruptcies, liens. That's the kind of thing that are under public records. So if that area has anything in there that is incorrect, you've got to get that fixed immediately, because those are the really big ones. Okay, so make sure that, or collections is also on there. So make sure that those areas are clear, and exactly what they should have. If you've had a bankruptcy, and it is what it is, but just make sure that it's accurate. The next thing that you'll have is different types of loans. So you'll have mortgage loans, installment loans, and then revolving. So your mortgage loan is obviously for your mortgage. An installment loan is when a lender has given you a chunk of money and then you are paying off in installments. So like a car loan, the lender gives you $35,000 and then you pay that off so much a month for so many years. So that's an installment loan. And installment loans don't generally count, will actually maybe sometimes help your credit. However, it could also hurt your credit because say you have $35,000 installment loan and you've only paid $1,000, well then you only have $1,000 available credit out of $35,000, and that's not good because one of the things that they look at for your credit score is how much available credit that you have. So how much credit you've used and how much credit you have available. So that's what the installment loans are. The next thing is revolving. So that's your credit cards. So let's talk a little bit about credit cards. Couple of things with credit cards. So your first credit card should be the best credit card you can get. No annual fees, because you don't want to ever take that credit card and have to close it, because that starts your credit time. And the length of your credit time is one of the things that is used for that credit score. So you want to always have it a really good credit card for your first one. Only in your name. Only in your name. So not in with you and your parents, not with you and a spouse, only in your name. And let me talk to you about the different reasons why that one should only be in your name. So first of all, if it's on a parent's name, well, if your parent is not really good with credit and they are paying that late, it could potentially hurt your credit score. But even if they are really good with credit, something could happen to you that happened to me. So I was an authorized user on my mom's credit card. When at 24, I went to get my first home, even though she had never paid that late, she had a big balance on the card. Well, the lender would not give me a loan because it showed that I had too much debt, even though I had never paid on that card ever, that I had too much debt for how much my income was. So I had to go back to the credit card company, get my name off of it, get a letter from them saying that I was never responsible for that debt. And so it was just a hassle. So it's good that your parents want to help you to establish credit, but as soon as you can get your own card, you may want to close the one that is you and your parents if they're have you as an authorized user, or have them take you off. Now, with your spouse, obviously we all go into marriage thinking it will last forever, otherwise why get married? But sometimes it doesn't. So if you end up having to get divorced, you have to close all of the credit cards that are in both of your names, okay? So if you don't have a credit card in your own name and you don't have any money to split up after the divorce, you can be in a bad situation, okay? So just always keep a credit card in your name, preferably that first credit card. Just keep it just in your name forever. So that's revolving credit cards. Also, keep in mind, again, this is a lender promise. So if you cannot afford something and it is not something that is necessary for your life, don't buy it. Bottom line, don't buy it. You save up on credit cards. You can save up money and get it later. That's what you do. It's part of becoming an adult. Adults are not children that just go up and go, I want it, mine, okay? They sometimes have to wait for things. And when they wait for things and they save up their money and then they get them. Now, granted, if you have the money in the bank and you can use your credit card wisely, where you have the money in the bank and you then want to pay it off, makes it easier for transactions or whatever, that's fine, provided you can always pay it off at the end of the month so you're not paying interest. If If you end up paying interest and you can't pay it off, that's where you get into this hole, because now you're paying more for the products because you're paying the product plus interest. Sometimes you get late fees. Late fees are high. So you're paying the product, interest, plus late fees. So then something that's maybe $100 becomes really expensive. So don't do it. Just don't. Save up for it if it's a big thing. So on your credit report, another thing that is on there is inquiries. So inquiries are when somebody has asked to see your credit report. There are two types. One type is they're asking and you're not initiating that. That will not hurt your credit report. Okay? So if Citibank is asking to find out your credit report because they may want to give you credit, that doesn't hurt you. What does, though, is if you're shopping for credit every month, then it's going to show, hey, this person keeps asking us to have the credit report pulled because they keep shopping for credit. That makes the credit reporting companies and the lenders think, oh my gosh, why do they need so much credit all of a sudden and keep asking for credit? Are they overextended? Do they not know how to handle their credit? And then, so that's kind of one that creates a ding. So sometimes you need to do what's called a fraud alert or freeze your credit. So a fraud alert is like your first step. Freezing the credit is one where something really big happened with your personal information. Here's some times to do a fraud alert. If you find out from your employer or from a bank or from somewhere else that your personal information has been compromised, you do a fraud alert. You contact one of the reporting agencies and you ask for them to do a fraud alert. What that will do is if anyone comes and tries to get credit, it makes it more difficult for them to get credit under your credit report. If you have to, sometimes you can also freeze the credit. Freezing the credit is like a tougher step. It goes a little bit longer. And that's if you really have had a big compromise of the breach of your information. So say, for example, they have your social security number. They have information that you really don't want, you don't want anyone to get credit within a certain amount of time. So usually, though, a fraud alert is your first step. So times to get a fraud alert. If your car has been broken into, you need to do a fraud alert. Think about what's in your car. Well, your registration, your insurance information. Usually those things have your name, your address, okay? So anytime you have your car broken into, if your company or credit card company says that your information has been compromised, do that fraud alert. So hopefully all of this helps and that I didn't miss anything. If there is something that you have more questions on, please put a comment, because this is just the really kind of basic overall overview of credit reporting and keeping promises to yourself. I am still doing Pockets of Joy, so I'll be doing those for a while. So the Pockets of Joy this time is still happy faces. So send me those happy faces to happyadults@gmail.com, and I will include those in a future video so we can have a little bit of joy these days. Just know, going into this week, you have the strength to handle anything that the universe gives to you. So no matter how tough something seems to be during this time, you have the strength to get through it. Sending you guys much love.